Frustration with the Trump administration, having talked to so many members, is that they clearly do not have a strategy. But what's worse is they are undermining the progress that we have made on this committee in a bipartisan way in trying to deal with this urgency. I've heard the urgency of commercial diplomacy from the Trump administration folks who have sat in hearings. I believe in commercial diplomacy. I've seen the power of it firsthand in my visits to the continent. But commercial diplomacy without a larger strategic plan, without proper funding, staffing, and programming doesn't do much. It sounds like nice rhetoric, but it doesn't offer real change, is what we need right now in this crisis.
The race for critical minerals has become one of the defining contests of the 21st century, shaping everything from smartphones and semiconductors to electric vehicles, renewable energy, and national defense. In a powerful address, a U.S. senator sounded the alarm that America is trailing dangerously behind while China races ahead, securing both resources and influence across Africa. With nearly 30% of the world's critical mineral reserves found on the continent, the senator called for a comprehensive U.S. strategy that reflects democratic values, strengthens partnerships, and safeguards supply chains.
I'm really grateful to the chairman for working together and leading this committee. To the two gentlemen before me, I just want to say you all have had long careers of dedicated public service. You are patriots in every sense of the word. I'm grateful for how you've dedicated not only your lives, but obviously your family has made quite a commitment to this country as well. It's great to have you here today. I am just very eager to have this conversation with two folks who are career folks, not involved in politics, because we should really be talking about the urgencies that the chairman just spoke to. You know, critical minerals are really the building block of the 21st century as we are screaming to a new age, from smartphones to semiconductors to electric vehicle batteries, renewable energy technologies. These resources are really going to be the central source that's going to drive economic growth and innovations that many of us here in this room can't even imagine that are going to come. It also is critical for helping to lower costs for people in the United States and around the world. We need to make sure we have a policy and a strategy. It's also very vital for our military readiness and our industrial competitiveness. But as my colleague has said, China has not only expanded its foreign sourcing of critical minerals, it has also developed a near monopoly in the processing and refinement of critical minerals, enabling it to exert influence over global supply chains, availability, and pricing. We are in a crisis, and not enough people recognize the crisis that we're in. It demands action. We know the strategic importance of these materials, but I believe the United States is trailing behind in this global competition and not exercising its strength, power, and focus. As a result, I believe we must develop a comprehensive U.S. strategy on critical minerals that reflects our values, protects our interests and supply chains, strengthens our partnerships, and reduces barriers for investment. Building U.S.-Africa partnerships when it comes to critical minerals is key for common sense, pragmatic strategy. And there is abundant opportunity to do so. Having traveled around the continent, I see how those countries, so many of them are more inclined to work with us, partner with us because of our values, because of our ideals. They do not want to partner with China. But when we create a vacuum, China rushes to fill it. The African continent is home to nearly 30% of the world's known critical mineral reserves, including minerals and other materials essential for the technologies that I've mentioned. But our posture in the continent right now is far from where it needs to be. First and foremost, we need to do a much better job in deepening those partnerships, building the trust, grounded in mutual respect, democratic values, and long-term opportunity for them and us to strengthen joint security and mutual prosperity. We need to do that in a way that makes the United States their partner of choice. It already is, but we have to make that bridge, that avenue open. We need to provide an alternative to China and Russia, who are moving so aggressively to secure access, influence, without regard to the governments or communities that are impacted. My frustration with the Trump administration, having talked to so many members is that they clearly do not have a strategy. But what's worse is they are undermining the progress that we have made on this committee in a bipartisan way in trying to deal with this urgency. I've heard the urgency of commercial diplomacy from the Trump administration folks who have sat in hearings. I believe in commercial diplomacy. I've seen the power of it firsthand in my visits to the continent. But commercial diplomacy without a larger strategic plan, without proper funding, staffing, and programming doesn't do much. It sounds like nice rhetoric, but it doesn't offer real change, is what we need right now in this crisis. The State Department has implemented changes, though, that have also undercut our competitiveness when it comes to strengthening relationships and securing supply chains. Let me give you some examples. The Trump administration has proposed a 76% cut to the Millennium Challenge Corporation, again, bipartisan support, one of our most valuable tools to support critical infrastructure throughout Africa, including developing mineral supply chains. My colleague rightfully talked about the importance of the Libido corridor. Well, while Congress reviews the proposal, the Trump administration went ahead and terminated the MCC compact with Zambia. This compact was directly linked to our joint efforts along the Libido corridor, a project designed to create the first westward-facing critical mineral supply chain in Africa. That is unconscionable. The administration has not continued Prosper Africa. I've talked to the chairman of this committee who is committed to that. It was a bipartisan initiative launched under the first Trump administration and connected U.S. businesses with African companies and markets, but again, it's being abandoned, even though we all know the difference it's made. The Trump administration terminated the very governance and economic support that would help African partners and, more importantly, or as importantly, improve the business climate to increase access for U.S. companies. The Trump administration terminated labor, environmental, and peace-building programs that supported vulnerable communities in conflict areas where critical minerals become a source of corruption, violence, and destruction. The Trump administration stopped the U.S. geological surveys in African countries to help locate and map the extent of critical minerals. The Trump administration stopped, quote, countering PRC influence, end quote, funding that addressed illicit mining in countries like Nigeria. The Trump administration fired over 1,300 employees at the State Department with critical expertise, some of whom were focused on critical minerals and some of whom had owned onward assignments to critical African posts, where there are already significant staffing shortages. The Trump administration has not nominated appointees for key positions, haven't even put the nominees forward, including an assistant secretary for African affairs. To date, the administration has only nominated one ambassador to serve in an African country. China's diplomatic presence is running laps around the United States of America. They are savoring our lack of action, our retreat, our undermining our business interests, our compromising our security, and are not seizing on a strategy for critical minerals. We need a real strategy, a strategy that would support true bilateral relationships, that would empower local economies and communities to create better long-term partners and markets for U.S. companies, that would staff our embassies, that every embassy I visited say that the opposition, or China, outmatches them in so many ways. Africa is not just a source of raw materials, it is a rising global force in the world economy. It is a central partner for today and a vital, critical partner for tomorrow. And so yes, I hear the lip service. We must increase U.S. commercial investment opportunities, but you can't undercut a lot of the structures this committee has built in a bipartisan way to support that commercial success. We got to be smart, not blind with extractive ambition, but with mutual respect and strategic foresight that create wins-wins for African countries, nations, and peoples, and American strength, security, and economic might. We must focus on long-term opportunities to reduce nations' reliance on China, address business climate challenges, create good-paying jobs at home and abroad, strengthen our industrial base, boost the credibility of our leadership, businesses and partnership. Sadly, instead, the Trump administration is systematically undermining our ability to do so by terminating or ignoring the resources Congress in a bipartisan way has provided to better accomplish these goals. What is the strategy? What should be the strategy? We see the urgencies. We see the crisis. I hope this conversation is constructive to us getting to the bottom of ways that this committee, in a bipartisan way, can address the galling gaps. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Critical minerals are the backbone of modern economies and technologies. From cobalt and lithium to rare earth elements, these resources are essential for renewable energy grids, high-tech defense systems, and advanced electronics. As the senator underscored, we are in a crisis, and not enough people recognize the crisis that we're in. China has not only expanded its foreign sourcing of critical minerals, but also established a near monopoly in refining and processing. This dominance allows Beijing to exert enormous leverage over global markets, dictating supply availability and pricing. The senator emphasized that the U.S. has the strength and resources to compete, but what is missing is strategic focus, long-term investment, and political will. Africa is at the center of this global competition. With nearly 1/3 of global critical mineral reserves, the continent holds vast potential for mutually beneficial partnerships. Many African nations prefer working with the United States, not China, because of shared values and ideals. Yet when the U.S. fails to engage, China rushes in to fill the vacuum, offering deals without regard for governance, community impact, or environmental standards. The senator highlighted how U.S. policy in recent years has undermined its competitiveness. Cuts to the Millennium Challenge Corporation, termination of compacts such as the one with Zambia, the weakening of Prosper Africa, and the elimination of programs that supported labor rights, environmental protections, and peace-building in mining regions all send the wrong signal. In addition, U.S. Geological Survey programs that mapped mineral potential across African nations have been discontinued, and funding for countering illicit mining and Chinese influence has been slashed. Staffing shortfalls at U.S. embassies and the failure to nominate key diplomatic positions further compound the problem. Meanwhile, China's diplomatic presence is surging, allowing Beijing to shape contracts, infrastructure projects, and political alliances across Africa. As the senator warned, China's diplomatic presence is running laps around the United States of America. They are savoring our lack of action. But the speech was not just about criticism. It was also a call to action. The senator urged the development of a comprehensive U.S. strategy built on several pillars. Deepening partnerships based on mutual respect, democratic values, and shared prosperity. Supporting infrastructure projects like the Lobito Corridor to create westward-facing supply chains that reduce dependence on China. Reviving programs like Prosper Africa, MCC, and U.S. Geological Survey efforts that strengthen governance, transparency, and market access. Staffing embassies and agencies with the expertise needed to compete diplomatically and commercially. Focusing on long-term opportunities to strengthen industrial bases, create jobs both in the U.S. and abroad, and reduce global reliance on China. The senator stressed that Africa is not just a source of raw materials, but a rising global economic force. Building equitable, forward-looking partnerships will ensure stability, economic growth, and security for both Africa and the United States. The choice is clear. Either America steps up with vision and strategy, or it risks ceding critical ground to China and Russia. This urgent warning is more than a critique. It is a roadmap. The United States must seize this moment to forge stronger, values-based partnerships with Africa, invest in sustainable supply chains, and reclaim leadership in the global race for critical minerals. The stakes could not be higher: economic strength, industrial competitiveness, military readiness, and credibility on the world stage. As the senator concluded, Africa is not just a source of raw materials. It is a rising global force. America's future may well depend on how it answers this call.